The regret, he called it. Music. As I tidied my study, I accidentally found a diary my husband had carefully hidden inside the lining of his safe. The first line read, "Danran, if music could turn back time, I would never let you go." The latest entry, written yesterday, said, "Today I took her for a prenatal checkup." Hearing our baby's heartbeat, my mind drifted to the tear mole at the corner of Danran's eye. How utterly disgusting. I counted. In those more than 300 diary pages, the name Shen Danran was mentioned 127 times. The word love appeared 89 times, all directed towards that woman. My name, Zhang Wanjun, only appeared 14 times. 12 of those times were lines like, "My wife is asleep. My wife has morning sickness. My wife has a prenatal checkup." The remaining 2 were, "Marrying her was the right decision. My parents are very pleased." And "If only she were Danran, how wonderful music that would be." It turned out that the marriage everyone admired was, to him, just a task to be completed according to a predetermined plan. That evening, I decided to book a surgery appointment. If his love was merely borrowed, then this child didn't need to be born into such a fake family. The safe's password was our wedding anniversary, 10/24. Xichen said it was easy to remember that way. All important things were kept there: property deeds, our marriage certificate, and even what he called our letter to the future. For 3 years, I had believed that. Today, I intended to find the house purchase contract to register for a parking space when I accidentally touched a hardcover notebook hidden inside the velvet lining. It was dark blue with gold trim, exactly like the pregnancy journal he had once given me. When he gave it to me, he music said, "Wanjun, all our memories will be recorded here from now on." I opened his notebook. The first line made my blood run cold in my fingertips. "Today, Danran returned from Shanghai. All our classmates were abuzz. She added me on WeChat. Her first message was, 'Xichen, long time no see.'" I stared at those 5 words, sitting motionless in the meeting room for half an hour. If I had gone to Shanghai to find her 3 years ago, would I be the one by her side now? But I'm already married to Wanjun. At the music wedding, she smiled so brightly, but she didn't know that my hand was trembling when I raised my glass. "Danran, if time could go back, I would never let go of your hand." The second entry read, "Wanjun said she wanted cake from the South District. I queued for an hour." Danran posted on Moments, alone on Christmas Eve. The lights in her rented room looked so lonely. I drove to her building, saw her room light still on until 2 a.m. The song she loved most in high school played in the car, and I started to understand. It turns out people become gentler because they truly understand. I understood, but everything was too late. The cake was ruined. Wanjun looked disappointed. I said I'd buy it again next time, but there won't be a next time. My legs suddenly music buckled, unable to stand. I clung to the safe and sank to the floor. My lower abdomen suddenly cramped and the baby gave a gentle kick. 16 weeks. I had just felt the baby move. Last music week, Xichen touched my belly for the first time, his eyes gleaming. I had thought it was the joy of an expectant father. Now, recalling his diary entry from that day, Wanjun said the baby moved and asked me to feel. The slight vibration under my hand frightened me. What if this baby were Danran's? Yesterday, she said her new boyfriend wasn't good, crying on the phone. Should I go find her? My whole body went cold. Like a soulless machine, I continued to turn each music diary page. Every page was about Shen Danran. Shen Danran changed jobs. Shen Danran moved house. Shen Danran caught a cold. Music. Shen Danran posted a song lyric in the middle of the night. He wrote 3 whole pages analyzing it. And me, the warm family he spoke of, was just a scattering of disjointed, trivial notes. Wanjun's morning sickness is severe, lost 5 kg. Mom told me to pay more attention to her. I know, but every time I saw her struggling to vomit in the bathroom, I thought of Danran. Her stomach music is weak. Who will cook porridge for her? Accompanied Wanjun to her prenatal checkup. The ultrasound screen showed only a blurry image. The doctor said it was a boy. Danran once said she liked girls, music, with expressive eyes like hers. Bought a crib for the baby. Wanjun excitedly chose for 3 hours. Standing amidst a pile of wooden planks, I suddenly remembered going to IKEA with Danran in our 3rd year of university. She said she wanted to buy that white slatted bed later. Back then, she was my girlfriend. She was my girlfriend. Those 6 words were like poison needles, piercing deep into my eyes. I continued turning to the most recent pages. Music accompanied Wanjun for her routine prenatal checkup. When I heard the fetal heartbeat, the image of Danran's tear mole at the corner of her eye reappeared in my mind. The doctor remarked that I looked tired, asking if I hadn't been resting enough lately. It's true, I haven't been sleeping well lately. Danran said she might be transferred to Shenzhen. If music, she leaves, what meaning will this city hold for me? Today, Wanjun was very happy, saying the baby was developing well. When she smiled, there was a charming dimple on her right cheek. Danran doesn't have dimples, so why do I keep thinking of her? Despicable. Music. I am truly despicable. The last 4 words seemed to tear through the page, etched deep into the diary. It wasn't that he was disgusted with himself for having wronged me, but for still being entangled with Shen Danran. And me, I was 16 weeks pregnant, carrying his child. Yesterday, I cried tears of joy just hearing the strong fetal heartbeat. All of that was merely a faint shadow next to the line about Danran possibly being transferred to Shenzhen. Music like an unimportant footnote. I sat on the cold carpet, watching the sunset outside the window slowly fade. The diary in my hand felt heavy. It turned out that for 3 years, I had been living in a monologue of my own making. The concern I thought was love was just his responsibility. The affection I believed was love was just a role he had to play. The harmony I trusted we both cultivated was simply him getting used to it. And his heart had long ago been given to someone else, never reclaimed. Even with a tiny life budding inside me, he still grieved and tormented himself in his diary over that other woman. The fetus kicked more clearly than before, like a small fish gently wriggling in the water. I looked down at my slightly protruding belly, placing my hand on it. My love, music, I'm sorry. I cannot let you be born into a family where your father dreams of another woman day and night, and your mother is merely the woman he should marry. I cannot let you one day accidentally read a diary like this and ask me why Daddy doesn't love us. And I certainly cannot let you become another task to be completed on his to-do list. I used the safe to pull myself up, returning the diary music to its secret compartment. The sharp, decisive click of the safe lock echoed as I closed it like a final verdict. Then, music without hesitation, I picked up my phone and opened the City Maternity Hospital's appointment app. The login was smooth, my hand steady. I selected music, family planning, termination of pregnancy in mid-stage. The time I chose was the earliest slot tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. In the notes section, I paused for a beat, then typed, "No accompanying family member, please arrange support. Send. Pay." The light from the phone screen illuminated my pale face in the darkened study. Not a single tear, not even half a tear. It turns out, when a heart is completely numb, this is what it feels like, as if my whole being has been hollowed out. What filled it was not pain, but a cold, heavy, perpetual numbness that could never be dispelled. Outside the main door, I heard the click of a key. Xichen was home. I heard him take off his shoes, the briefcase being placed on the cabinet, and then footsteps heading towards the study. "Wanjun, are you in there?" His voice was as always, gentle, calm, mixed with a hint of fatigue after a day's work. What a perfect husband. I stood up, and just before he could push the door open, I swung the study door wide. "I'm packing up," I said, my voice strangely calm. He stood in the doorway, wearing the light gray shirt I had ironed for him the day before. His tie was half loosened. Seeing me, he smiled. "Why aren't the lights on? It's not good for your eyes." As he spoke, he reached out to touch my face. Reflexively, I tilted my head, avoiding his hand. His hand paused in midair, his eyes briefly showing a flicker of doubt, but it was quickly masked by a smile. "What's wrong? Are you unhappy?" "I'm a little tired." I lowered my head and brushed past him. "Dinner's ready. I've left it music on the table." "You've worked hard." He followed me, his hand resting casually on the small of my back. Before, I would have seen that as concern. Now, I only felt irony. Was the baby good today? "Yes, good." "That's good then." He walked to the dining table, looking at the 3 savory dishes and 1 soup, all his favorites. "My wife is so good, my wife is so good." In his diary, he called Shen Danran, baby, my girl. But me, he called Wanjun or her. Even in his most private diary entries, he didn't bother to call me wife. I sat down at the table, picking up my chopsticks. He scooped some soup and placed it in front of me, then served himself a bowl. Oh, right. He took a sip of soup, saying casually, I might be home a bit late tomorrow. The company has a project. No need, I interrupted him. He looked surprised. Huh. No need to rush home. I'll be out with a friend tomorrow, probably eating out too. I looked at the green onions floating on the surface of the soup. Oh, okay. He nodded music and smiled. It's good that you go out more, don't stay home all the time. How thoughtful, just like a good husband caring for his wife. He didn't know that the place I would be going tomorrow was the hospital's operating room. He didn't know that the son he eagerly awaited would cease to exist in this world in just a dozen or so hours. He also didn't know that the wife he should marry, in his diary pages music, had already torn him from her heart without a single lingering attachment. I lowered my head and drank the soup. It was richly sweet. I had spent 2 hours simmering it. Before, I would have felt happy watching him drink the soup I made with my own hands. But now, I only thought that this pot of soup should have been given to a dog instead. Wanjun, he suddenly called my name. I looked up. Under the light, his face was as handsome as ever, with delicate features, music, a high, straight nose. That year, I had been deceived by this appearance and by those eyes I once thought were full of affection. We've been married for 3 years now. How about we celebrate a little? He said. I've booked a table at the restaurant. We'll go this weekend, okay? I stared at him, at the man who had written in his diary, if only Wanjun were Danran, how wonderful that would be. At the man who, upon hearing his own child's heartbeat, thought of another woman's tear mole. At the man who had trampled on 3 years of my youth and my genuine affection. All right, I replied. I even managed a faint smile. Yes, we should celebrate. Celebrate because I had finally seen his true colors. Celebrate because I would finally be leaving him. He looked visibly relieved, his smile becoming more genuine. So, it's decided then, I'll make the reservation. I continued to drink the soup, spoonful by spoonful, swallowing 3 years of foolishness and a newfound resolve. Outside the window, the sky had completely darkened. The diary in the study lay silently in the safe, secret compartment, and my child gave a final gentle stir within my womb. My dear, I'm sorry. Music, but it's better that I never had you than for you to live as a replacement. I don't want you to grow up with a father who constantly pines for another woman and a mother who herself feels pathetic. This marriage will surely end. This child music I cannot keep. As for this man, whoever wants him can have him. The next morning at 7 a.m. I woke up, or more accurately, I could barely sleep. Xichen was still sound asleep. He had his back to me, his breathing even. The sunrise peeked through the gap in the curtains, casting a sharp, sculpted line on his shoulder. There was a time when I found comfort in that shoulder, but now it felt like a cold wall. I quietly got out of bed, careful not to wake him. My reflection in the bathroom mirror was pale, like a ghost, with dark circles under my eyes like ink. I splashed cold water on my face, hard enough to make my cheeks flush. After music, I meticulously applied moisturizer, used concealer to hide my dark circles, and even drew my eyebrows. Today, I had to do something utterly heartless, but I didn't want to look like a woman abandoned. In the kitchen, I heated milk, fried eggs, and bacon. The toaster popped, releasing golden, crispy slices of bread. The coffee maker hummed softly, and the aroma filled the house. Xichen followed the scent out, his eyes still half asleep. Up so early? He rubbed his eyes, approaching to kiss my forehead. I quickly turned, picking up my coffee cup, avoiding his kiss. Music, afraid of traffic. I'm leaving a bit early. Are you that excited to go shopping? He smiled, noticing nothing unusual, and naturally sat down for breakfast. Who are you going with? Ling Wei. Me, I hummed in response. Send her my regards, won't you? He said, chewing his bread. Oh, right, are you really not coming home for dinner tonight? We'll see. I gripped my coffee cup tightly, my fingers clenching the rim. I might be late. Be careful then, he said. Music, his tone genuinely held concern, but it was the kind of concern one gives to an object within their responsibility. I silently glanced at his face. The man who had shared my bed for 3 years, who had left a drop of his blood in my body. The man who was now enjoying breakfast I cooked with my own hands, utterly unaware that in a little while I would personally end everything. Suddenly, I wanted to ask him a few things. Do you music remember? Last week at the prenatal checkup, the doctor said my placenta was a bit low and I needed more rest. You nodded in agreement then, but that evening you wrote in your diary. Danran posted a story, working overtime until 3 a.m. So pitiful. Do you remember? 2 months ago, I had cramps in the middle of the night, so painful I cried. You sleepily massaged my leg a few times. The next day, your diary read, dreamed of Danran in a wedding dress. Too bad I wasn't the groom. Do you remember? On our first wedding anniversary, I prepared a table full of food, waiting for you. You came home at 11 p.m., carrying a withered bouquet of roses. That day in your diary, you only wrote one line. Danran changed her WeChat profile picture, smiling so brightly. Music, who was she with? Wanjun, he looked up at me. What are you spacing out about? I startled, snapping back to reality. Nothing. I gently placed the coffee cup on the table. I'll get ready and head out. So early, the mall isn't even open yet. I'm meeting a friend for morning tea. I lied naturally. Music, he wiped his mouth and stood up. Then I'll go to work early today for that project too. I didn't quite hear the rest of his words. I walked into the bedroom, pulling open the wardrobe doors. Music, my hand brushed past a row of neatly hung clothes. Finally, it stopped at a black cashmere dress. Over it, a cream-colored wool coat. I opened my jewelry box and took out the pearl earrings. A gift from him on our first wedding anniversary. He once said pearls were gentle, just like me. Now, music, I thought, perhaps it was because Shen Danran preferred diamonds and I was just more suited for pearls. I dressed music neatly, picked up my bag, and walked out of the bedroom. Xichen was already in the shoe area, putting on his shoes. Seeing me, his eyes lit up. You look beautiful in that outfit today. Thanks, my voice was cold. He leaned closer to me. This time, I couldn't avoid him in time. He gently kissed my cheek. Have fun, he said. Music, the warmth of his lips lingered on my skin, making me feel nauseous. You too, I heard myself reply. The door closed behind both of us. Each of us, music, turned in a different direction, heading for different elevators. He pressed the down button and I pressed the up button. I wanted to go to the rooftop to get some air. Music, before the elevator doors closed, he turned back and smiled at me, waving goodbye. I also raised my hand, music, and waved back. Like the most normal of couples, in the most normal of farewell moments. Only he didn't know that this was our final parting, so peacefully it occurred. The city maternity hospital was always bustling with people. In the thick air hung the smell of disinfectant, formula milk, and unease. The waiting area was packed. Pregnant women with protruding bellies were supported and meticulously cared for by their husbands or mothers. Young girls, pale-faced, clutched their test results, and a few people like me quietly sat huddled in a corner. I completed the registration, clutching the documents, heading towards the family planning department. With each step, my lower abdomen felt like a 1,000-pound rock pressing down. The corridor walls were plastered with propaganda posters. On one side were pictures of adorable newborns, music, with the caption, "A new life, a new hope." On the other side was a scientific diagram illustrating the unpredictable harms of abortion. Just looking at it made me sick. I quickly turned my face away. At the reception desk, the nurse looked up at me briefly. Alone? Yes. Where's your family? Busy, I replied curtly. She didn't, music, ask anything further. She handed me some forms. Fill these out and wait for your name to be called. I found a seat in the most secluded corner. The form asked for age, number of pregnancies, number of births, last menstrual period. Music, I filled each item carefully, my pen unusually steady. Until the line, reason for termination of pregnancy. I paused for a very long time, then wrote, unsuitable to continue pregnancy. 7 brief words encapsulated all the hopes of the past 16 weeks, and the despair that the diary brought me the previous afternoon. It was my turn to be called. In the examination room was a female doctor in her 40s, wearing a mask that covered everything but her calm eyes. Zhang Wanjun. Yes, she took the forms and my previous prenatal checkup documents, glancing through them. The pregnancy is over 16 weeks. Music, have you thought about this carefully? Yes, I have. Why do you want to terminate the pregnancy? Is there something wrong with the fetus? No. Then, music, it's a private reason, I interrupted her. Doctor, I have decided not to keep it. She looked at me intently for a few seconds, her eyes showing a hint of doubt, but finally, music she just nodded slightly. Go pay the hospital fees first, then complete the necessary pre-surgery tests, including ultrasound, blood tests, coagulation tests, and an electrocardiogram. If the results are stable, come back here and I will write the surgery order. Yes, doctor. Everything proceeded according to a rigid and cold procedure. During the blood draw, the needle pricked my vein. I watched the dark red blood slowly flow into the test tubes, one after another, 5 tubes in total. Music. For the ultrasound, I had to hold my urine. I quickly drank 3 bottles of water, walking back and forth in the corridor. My lower abdomen grew increasingly distended, and that familiar sensation rushed back. 16 weeks pregnant, the uterus had grown beyond the pelvic bone, putting pressure on the bladder. Finally, it was my turn to go in. I lay on the examination bed. A cold gel was applied to my abdomen, and the transducer pressed down, moving back and forth on my skin. Relax, the doctor music said. I could only stare blankly at the ceiling. The ultrasound machine emitted tiny buzzing sounds, then I heard a strong, rhythmic music sound like a small train running at full speed. Thump, 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 thump. So fast, so full of life. The last time I heard the fetal heartbeat, Xichen stood beside me, holding my hand tightly. I had burst into tears. Music he gently wiped away my tears, calling me a fool. At that time, I thought those were tears of happiness. Now, I realized they were just the prelude to a tragedy. Fetal heart rate is completely normal, 152 beats per minute. The doctor's voice was even. Sac size corresponds to gestational age. Placenta position is a bit low, but not yet placenta previa. You still want to terminate the pregnancy. I have decided. My voice was hoarse. Music. Sign here. I sat up straight, picked up the pen, and signed the consent form after being counseled. Music. Each stroke of the pen felt like it was cutting into my flesh. Zhang Wanjun. These 3 words decided the life or death of a tiny being. Stepping out of the ultrasound room, I sat motionless for a long time on the bench in the corridor. My hand still rested lightly on my lower abdomen. The baby seemed to sense something. It kicked more than usual. Once, then again, gently, as if lightly scratching the palm of my hand. I'm sorry, my child. I am so sorry, but I cannot let you come into this world to suffer. I cannot let you have a father whose heart does not belong to you. I cannot let you grow up in a deceitful marriage. Finally, tears fell, 1 drop then 2, falling onto my burning hand. I quickly wiped away my tears, took a deep breath, and stood up to collect the other test results. Everything showed a normal state of health. Returning to the family planning department, the doctor reviewed the results and wrote the music surgery order. Go to the pharmacy to get your medication, then head to the waiting area by the operating room. Today, you will undergo an induced abortion. First, take the medication. Wait until uterine contractions begin. This process will be lengthy, possibly over 10 hours or even longer. Yes, doctor. Are you really here alone? She asked again for confirmation. No one is accompanying you. Truly, just me, she sighed, writing something in my medical record. Then sign an authorization form in case we need to contact family in an emergency. I can sign it myself. Music, I replied. She looked at me for a moment, then didn't push further. After getting the medication, I went to the waiting area outside the operating room. This place was much emptier and quieter. In the air hung an indescribable scent disinfectant mixed with a faint, metallic smell of blood. A few women sat on plastic chairs. Some were sobbing, some stared blankly into space, some spoke quietly on their phones, arguing. I chose a seat closest to the wall. Music in my hand was a small plastic bag containing several boxes of medicine. Tiny white pills, yet they could end the life of a small being that had already kicked inside me. I took out my phone. The screen was completely blank, no missed calls, no new messages. Xichen must have been thinking I was at the mall, happily chatting with friends, trying on new clothes, music, enjoying afternoon tea. He would never suspect that his gentle, caring wife was now sitting outside a hospital operating room, waiting to take away his child's life. I opened my contacts, scrolled to Xichen's name. My fingertip hovered over the call button for a very long time. Finally, I pressed back, opened the WeChat app, and found our music chat. The last message was his from last night. Remember to eat breakfast tomorrow. Don't go hungry. Music scrolling up, I saw our bland, watery messages. He asked what I wanted for dinner. I reminded him to pay the utility bills. Music, he sent me work-related links to review. I sent him supermarket promotion information, like roommates, not like a husband and wife, not like him and Shen Danran. Danran said it's raining today. She didn't bring an umbrella. I'll pick her up, music in the car. She stood waiting at the foot of the office building, her hair drenched, looking pitiful like a kitten. Danran had a stomachache. I ordered hot porridge delivered to her home. She sent a voice message thanking me, her voice incredibly soft. Danran shared a song with a hint of sadness. She said it was their story. Music, our story. So what was the story between me and him? Was it just a play that I was forced to act out completely? I exited WeChat, turned off my phone, music, and sat there silently, staring at the stark white wall, listening to the faint cries of newborns echoing from afar. The sound of life just beginning, while here, I was waiting to bid farewell to a life. The door opened, and a nurse, music, stepped out, calling out a few names. A few people stood up and followed her inside. The door closed, and I continued to wait. A heavy, uncomfortable feeling began in my lower abdomen. I didn't know if it was due to extreme tension or if the medication had started to take effect. Music, time passed incredibly slowly. I didn't know how long I had been sitting there until the nurse came out again. Zhang Wanjun. Music, I stood up, my legs slightly numb, my steps unsteady. Follow me, the nurse said, her tone cold. I followed her through that door. Music, inside was an even quieter corridor with operating rooms on either side. The smell of disinfectant in the air was thick. She led me into a small room. Take your medicine here. Take 2 pills now, 1 more tomorrow morning, then wait for contractions and press the bell. I took the cup of water and the pills. The tiny white pills, music, rested in the palm of my hand. After taking them, do not eat or drink anything for 2 hours, the nurse instructed, then turned and left. The door closed softly. I was left alone in the room with a bed, a nightstand, a chair. The window was placed very high, making it impossible to see outside, only a stretch of gray sky. Music. I sat down, staring at the pills in my hand. This was the last chance. If I left now, it was music, still not too late to go home. Continue to be Xichen's wife, he should marry, give birth to this child. Pretend I had never read that diary. Pretend to believe he loved me. And then what? Then I would watch him during late-night feedings, soothing the baby to sleep, while he messaged Shen Danran. You've worked hard taking care of the baby alone. See him when the baby first babbled, Daddy, and in my head, Shen Danran's words would echo, our child will definitely be very smart someday. Watch him on our 10th wedding anniversary, and in his diary, he would write, if I had been braver that year, would Danran be the one by my side now? I shook my head. Zhang Wanjun, no matter how miserable, could not be so despicable. I unscrewed the water bottle, tilted my head back, put the 2 pills in my mouth, and swallowed. Music, the cold water flowed down my throat, chilling me to the core. The medicine was in, there was no turning back. I placed the water bottle, music, down, lay on the bed, my hand on my belly, gently stroking it. My love, I'm sorry. The medication truly began to take effect at 2:00 a.m. At first, it was just a dull ache, like period discomfort. I curled up on the bed, counting the cracks on the ceiling. The hospital corridor lights shone through the glass pane, casting music, a faint white streak on the floor. Then the pain intensified, turning into regular contractions. Every 10 minutes, every 8 minutes, every 5 minutes. Each contraction lasted about 30 seconds, music, like an invisible hand squeezing and twisting inside my abdomen, then releasing. Cold sweat drenched my hospital gown. I bit hard into music, the corner of the pillow, trying not to make a sound. At 4:00 a.m., the contractions became relentless every 2-3 minutes. The pain spread from my abdomen to my back, like a large truck repeatedly running over me. Music, I pressed the bell to call the nurse. The nurse came in to check. 2 centimeters dilated. Let's move to the delivery room. The delivery room was a completely different space. Bright operating lights, cold medical instruments. The medical staff wore green surgical scrubs. They pushed me onto the delivery table, their voices dry. If it hurts, scream, don't try to hold it in. I gripped the side of the bed tightly, my fingernails digging deep into my flesh. Music, more intense pain crashed over me like waves. My body felt like it was about to tear apart. Something was pushing down, frantically trying to escape. My vision blurred, my ears rang. Push, someone yelled. I gathered all my strength, a growl escaping my throat like a cornered animal. I don't know how long it lasted, maybe only a few minutes, maybe a few hours, but finally a wave of warmth enveloped me. Then I heard, or more accurately felt music, a very faint cry, fleeting, almost imperceptible. Only one sound, then silence. The world suddenly became strangely quiet, only the steady sound of machines along with my own heavy breathing. "It's done, music," the doctor announced. "It's a boy, do you want to see him?" I gently shook my head, closing my eyes tightly. Tears streamed from my closed eyes, hot, flowing down my temples, soaking into my music hair. My child, the baby who had existed in my body for 16 weeks, who kicked, who had a beating heart. Yesterday, he had touched my palm, now he was gone. At 6:30 a.m., I was wheeled back to the ward. The anesthetic hadn't worn off completely, my lower body felt a dull ache. My whole body felt drained of life, both light and heavy, unable to move even a finger. The nurse gave me some instructions: monitor for 2 hours, if heavy bleeding occurs, press the bell. Come back for a follow-up in a week. I just nodded, unable to speak a word. Outside the window, dawn was breaking. The city began a new day in the early morning mist. From afar, the familiar rush-hour traffic noise echoed. A new day had begun, but my child had permanently stopped it yesterday. I picked up my phone. The battery was at 30%. The screen showed 3 music missed calls, all from Xichen. The call times were 11 p.m. the night before, 12 a.m., and 1 a.m. There were also a few WeChat messages. "Staying out late? What time are you coming home? Why aren't you answering your phone? Wanjun, please reply if you see this. I'm a little worried." Worried? How ironic. I turned off the screen, unplugged the music charger, and slowly sat up. Every movement caused pain in my lower abdomen. I gritted my teeth and changed back into my clothes. The black cashmere dress was crumpled, shapeless, stained with sweat and blood. At exactly 8 o'clock, I completed the discharge procedures, taking the plastic bag the hospital gave me. Inside were anti-inflammatory medications and usage instructions. As I stepped out of the hospital gate, a cold gust of wind hit me. I pulled my coat tight, hailing a taxi. "Where to?" the driver asked. "Music." I gave him my home address. The car slowly moved through the crowded morning rush-hour traffic. "Music." I looked out the window. Familiar sights flashed past: our usual bakery, the bus stop where he used to wait for me, the elementary school he once said our future child would attend. Everything seemed exactly as it was yesterday, but in reality, nothing was the same. At 9:10, I arrived at our home. As I inserted the key into the lock, my hand suddenly trembled. The door opened. In the living room, Xichen startled, jumping up from the sofa. His face was haggard, his eyes bloodshot, his chin unshaven. Seeing me, he sighed with relief but immediately frowned. "Music, where have you been all night? I couldn't reach you, I almost called the police." His voice suddenly choked as he saw the hospital plastic bag in my hand. His gaze left the bag, slowly sweeping over my pale face, my disheveled clothes, then resting on my abdomen, which had been slightly bulging but was now flat as if nothing had ever been there. His expression changed moment by moment. "Music." "Wanjun," his voice trembled. "What are you holding?" I remained silent, placing the plastic bag on the shoe rack at the entrance. I bent down to take off my shoes. "Did you go to the hospital?" He stepped forward and grabbed my arm tightly. "Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Why would you?" The question was unfinished. He seemed to suddenly understand something. His eyes widened, his pupils contracted violently. He let go of my hand, took a step back, shaking his head. "No, it can't be. Yesterday, you said you were going shopping." "I didn't go shopping." I cut him off, my voice so calm it surprised even myself. "Music, I went to the hospital for an abortion." The air seemed to freeze. The color drained from Xichen's face rapidly, visibly. He gaped like a fish out of water, unable to make music, any sound. His eyes were fixed on me, filled with disbelief, shock, and then gradually explosive anger. You just said what?" He finally managed to speak, his voice hoarse. "Say it again." "The baby is gone," Music, I replied. "I booked the appointment yesterday afternoon. This morning, I underwent the surgery. 16 weeks. A boy." "Music, are you insane?" He suddenly erupted in anger, his voice almost a shout. "Zhang Wanjun, have you lost your mind? That was our child. How dare you? How dare you not say a word to me? Not tell me anything?" Music. I looked up at him, finally breaking into a laugh. What should I have told you? Should I have said, honey, I accidentally read your diary, full of loving words for Shen Danran. Music, so I don't want to have your child anymore? My words were like a heavy blow to his face. He froze, music rooted to the spot. The anger on his face immediately solidified, then shattered, revealing undisguised panic along with a hint of remorse. Diary? Which diary? His voice dropped significantly, his gaze starting to avert. The dark blue music, hardcover diary hidden in the secret compartment of the safe. I spoke slowly. You said those were letters to the future. I believed you. Yesterday, I was looking for car documents in there and accidentally found it. Music flipped through a few pages, truly fascinating. I stepped closer. He reflexively backed away. Music, from 3 months before we got married to the latest entry you wrote yesterday, over 300 pages. Shen Danran was mentioned 127 times. The word love appeared 89 times, all for her. And me? Zhang Wanjun only appeared 14 times. 12 of those times were Wanjun is asleep. Wanjun has morning sickness. All trivial things. I cornered him. He backed up to the edge of the sofa, almost stumbling. The other 2 times, I looked straight into his eyes. One was marrying Wanjun was the right decision. Parents are very pleased. And the other was if only Wanjun were Danran, how wonderful that would be. His lips moved, wanting to say something, but he couldn't. Xichen, I called his full name. Each word resonated. I was 16 weeks pregnant, so sick I had to be hospitalized for IV fluids. Music, and you wrote in your diary. Danran complained of a stomachache. I want to buy medicine for her. I had cramps in the middle of the night. In so much pain, I woke up crying. Music, and you wrote in your diary. Dreamed of Danran in a wedding dress. Too bad I wasn't the groom. On our first wedding anniversary, I prepared a table full of food, waiting for you until late. And you wrote in your diary, music. Danran changed her WeChat profile picture, smiling so brightly. Wonder who she was with. Last week, during the prenatal checkup, hearing our child's heartbeat, you wrote in your diary, my mind drifted to the tear mole at the corner of Danran's eye. How utterly disgusting. I let out a bitter laugh, but tears streamed down my face. You're disgusted with yourself because you're still infatuated with her. Music, so what about me, Xichen? What am I to you? I carried your blood. Yet, when you heard our child's heartbeat, you thought of someone else. What am I in your eyes, really? It's not like that, Wanjun. Listen to me. He finally managed to speak, frantically reaching out to hold me. I violently pulled my arm away from him, with such force that I almost fell. The wound in my lower abdomen stretched, and a sharp pain shot through me. I let out a soft cry, leaning against the wall to steady myself. Wanjun, he started to step forward. Don't touch music, me, I screamed. You're filthy. His hand froze in midair. Explain. I took a deep breath, leaning against the wall. All right, I'll listen to your explanation. Explain why, on our wedding day, you didn't write a single line in your diary, but on Shen Danran's music birthday, you wrote 3 full pages. Explain why you remember every detail about her favorite perfume, what coffee she drinks, how many moles she has at the corner of her eye, but you forgot that I had a low-lying placenta and needed bed rest. Explain why you just made love to me, getting me pregnant, and then in your diary, you dreamed about her being the mother of the baby. Explain. Music. The last 3 words I almost shrieked, using all my remaining strength. After screaming, I coughed incessantly. A warm liquid flowed down below. The wound must have torn. Xichen's face was ashen. He looked at me, at my dress stained red with blood, his eyes bloodshot. Wanjun, we need to go to the music hospital immediately. You're bleeding. Answer me. I looked straight into his eyes. I want to hear your explanation. He lowered his head, covering his face with his hands. His shoulders began to tremble. His voice escaped from between his fingers, shattered. I once loved Danran, liked her since high school. In university, we were together. Then she wanted to go to Shanghai. I didn't follow her. And then what? Music. Then I went on a blind date and met you. You're very kind, truly gentle and understanding. My parents all liked you. He looked up, his face tear-streaked. Marrying you was sincere. I wanted to live a proper life, so I am the person you should marry, and Shen Danran is the person I wanted to marry. Music. I let out a weak laugh. Xichen, you're really good at self-justification. No, I'm not, he hastily clarified. Danran and I don't have anything going on. Really, music, just old classmates. We occasionally chat. I've never touched her. I swear, music never touched her. I felt like I had just heard the most ridiculous story in the world. Was emotional betrayal more noble than physical betrayal? The lines he wrote in his diary, the times he drove to her house in the middle of the night, the trivial details about her that he remembered so clearly. The phrases like, "I wish time could go back." Did he dare to say he only had a pure friendship with her? He fell silent. "You don't dare," I answered for him, "because deep down you know you love her, or at least you delude yourself into loving her. And I, Zhang Wanjun, music, am just an unfortunate choice for you. A tool for you to deal with your parents, a task to be completed in your life plan." "No, it's not like that," he mumbled, shaking his head frantically, sobbing. "It's not what you think. I cared about you too, Wanjun. We've been together for 3 years." "You cared about me?" I cut him off. "You cared about me, yet in your diary you wrote, 'If only Wanjun were Danran, how wonderful that would be.' You cared about me, yet when I had morning sickness you went to give medication to her. You cared about me, yet when our child kicked inside my belly you thought of her tear mole. Xichen, your concern is so cheap music it's pathetic." I leaned against the wall, trying to stand straight, taking a deep breath. "Let's get a divorce. The baby is gone. It's perfectly balanced. There's nothing left between us to divide. Assets before marriage belong to you. As for savings after marriage, I'll take half. I'm moving out tomorrow." "No," he lunged forward, falling to his knees in front of me, clutching my legs. "Wanjun, I was wrong. I truly made a mistake. Please don't go. The baby is gone. We can have another one. I'll change, I'll burn the diary, delete all contact with Danran. I'll never see her again. Please don't divorce me." He sobbed pitifully, tears and snot streaming down his face, even smearing onto my dress. The face I once found handsome now only filled me with disgust. I looked down at him, my voice calm as if narrating someone else's story. "Xichen, some mistakes are irreparable. Like your heart, it was long ago filled with the name Shen Danran. No matter how much you dig, you can't erase it. I don't hate you, I only pity you. We are all truly pitiful. You, me, and even Shen Danran. Do you think she truly didn't know you were married? Ask yourself about those midnight stories, music, those messages complaining about stomach aches, those ambiguous words. Who did she write them for? You stood there, stunned. She enjoyed the feeling of your torment, enjoyed having a married man still infatuated with her. And what did you get? Music, you drowned yourself in that impossible love, deluding yourself with a tragedy you created. So what about me?" I smiled, music, faintly, but tears streamed down my face. I was no different from a fool playing a superfluous character in your two's sappy love drama. "It's not like that," he mumbled, his arms around my legs slowly loosening. "Let go," I said, music. He didn't move. "I said let go," I shouted. He slowly released his grip, slumping to the floor, looking up at me with despair in his eyes. I stepped over him, heading towards the bedroom. With each step, my lower abdomen cramped and blood continued to flow down my legs, but I didn't stop. I opened the wardrobe and pulled out a suitcase. I began to pack my belongings, clothes, books, skincare products. Not much, the suitcase was full in a flash. Xichen shuffled behind me, standing at the doorway, watching me do everything without a word, his eyes red-rimmed like a hopeless statue. Finally, I opened my jewelry box, took out the pearl earrings, music, and placed them on the dressing table. "These are yours." He stared at the earrings, his lips moving. "Wanjun," I didn't look at him anymore. Music, I pulled the suitcase handle. The wheels of the suitcase rolled across the floor, making a heavy sound. As I walked past him, I paused. "Oh, I almost forgot. Music, there's one more thing I haven't told you." I tilted my head. "The day before yesterday afternoon, Shen Danran called me." He started, looking up sharply. "She said she knew you had just returned from a business trip and asked if I could lend you to her for a night because she was sad." I clearly saw his face shift from surprise to shame. "I told her no need to borrow. Music, I'll give him to her. Now you two are both free. I wish you two the best." With that, I pulled my suitcase and left, without Music looking back. I walked out of the bedroom, out of the living room, out of the home I had lived in for 3 years. The door closed behind me. The hallway was empty, not a soul in sight. I leaned against the wall, finally unable to hold myself up any longer, sliding down to sit on the floor. The pain from my lower abdomen surged violently, my vision, music, blurred, but I didn't cry. I just sat silently on the cold tiles, waiting for the pain to subside. After that, I used the wall to stand up, music, pulled my suitcase, and slowly, step by step, walked towards the elevator. In the elevator mirror, the woman reflected had a pale face, music a blood-stained dress, bloodshot eyes, but her gaze was firm. She looked like a survivor who had just escaped the rubble. Though her whole music body bore injuries, she was still alive, and she was determined to continue living. The elevator descended, the numbers dropping from 22 to 1. The doors opened, and she stepped out, embracing the biting cold of early winter. Her phone vibrated softly. She took it out to check. It was a WeChat friend request from Shen Danran. The verification message read, "Sister Wanjun, Xichen said you left home. What happened between you two? Do you need me to help mediate?" She stared at the message for a moment. Then she tapped on Danran's profile picture, chose delete and block. Next, she found Su Zichen's WeChat account. She did the same, delete, block. She rented a hotel room near the hospital for temporary accommodation. Music. For 3 consecutive days, she had a high fever, bleeding, and severe abdominal pain. In the early morning of the 4th day, the amount of bleeding was abnormally heavy, soaking the bedsheets. She gritted her teeth and called an ambulance. In the emergency room, after an examination, the doctor informed her that there was retained placental tissue and she needed to undergo a D&C procedure. "Family?" the doctor asked. "No one," she replied. The doctor looked at her, asking nothing further. The D&C procedure was even more painful than the abortion. Cold instruments scraped the uterine wall, each time like a knife cut. Music. She lay on the operating table, staring at the dazzling white ceiling light, her fingernails digging deep into her palms, trying to grit her teeth and endure so as not to pass out. After the surgery, she was taken back to the ward for observation. The bed next to hers held a pregnant woman trying to save her pregnancy. Her husband attentively spoon-fed her soup. Her in-laws stood around, their eyes filled with worry and love. She turned her back, closing her eyes. By afternoon, her fever had subsided. She completed discharge procedures and returned to the hotel. Her phone had 37 missed calls, all from unknown numbers. Su Xichen repeatedly changing numbers to call her. There were over a dozen messages, ranging from pleading to blaming to despair. Music. The latest message was sent half an hour ago. "Wanjun, I confronted Danran. She admitted she intentionally approached me, saying it was because she resented me for not going with her back then. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let her enchant me. Please answer your phone, let me know if you're okay." She deleted all the messages, putting her phone on silent. On Saturday, I went to the hospital for a checkup. The ultrasound showed my uterus was clear, but the recovery wasn't going well. The doctor prescribed medication and reminded me to have absolute rest for at least a month. "You look so frail," the female doctor said gently, closing my medical record. "You need adequate nutrition, regular rest. Your mental state is also very important. Don't overthink things." I quietly nodded. Leaving the music hospital, I stopped by a pharmacy to buy multivitamins and blood tonics. While paying, my gaze accidentally swept over some pregnancy test kits. I froze for a moment, then quickly turned away. That would never happen again. In the second week, I rented a small apartment in a district far from where I used to live. The apartment had 1 bedroom, 1 living room, and a south-facing window. The rent was 3 million Vietnamese dong a month. I used the money I received from the divorce settlement to pay 6 months' rent in advance. On moving day, the weather was beautiful, sunny. I placed my suitcase in the middle of the empty living room, opening the window to let the wind in. Early winter wind streamed in, carrying the scent of freedom. I began to slowly organize this new home. I went to IKEA and bought the cheapest bed frame and desk. I assembled them myself according to the instructions, screwing bolts until my hands blistered. I found used sofas and wardrobes online and hired movers to bring them up. Music. I went to the flower market, bought a few pots of spider plants and cacti, placing them on the windowsill. I went to the supermarket for groceries, carefully reading nutrition labels, choosing milk, eggs, and lean, protein-rich meat. In the evening, music. I sat on my new lounge chair, gazing at my simple but entirely private space. Suddenly, I felt music, that perhaps I really could start my life over. It was just that my health was still unstable. Music. At night, I often woke up suddenly, drenched in cold sweat. My lower abdomen ached dully, and my back was so sore I couldn't stand straight. Once, while showering, I saw my reflection in the mirror. Skinny, ribs showing, dark circles under my eyes, pale skin. I was only 27, but I looked like I had lost all vitality. But at music least, I was still alive. Xichen found me on the 10th day after I moved into the new apartment. That afternoon, I went downstairs to take out the trash and unexpectedly saw him at the residential complex gate. He stood in the cold wind, wearing a crumpled black coat, his hair disheveled, unshaven, his eye sockets deep-set. He looked much thinner. When he saw me, his eyes suddenly lit up, then quickly dimmed. "Wanjun?" His voice was hoarse. I gripped the trash bag tightly, standing still, saying nothing. "I've been looking for you for a long time." He stepped forward, I backed away. "I asked all your friends, no one knew where you were. Finally, I had to check your health insurance card transaction history to track down the hotel near the hospital. Then I checked the hotel's cameras and found out you came to this area." "Are you stalking me?" I cut him off. "I just wanted to see you one last time." His voice choked. "You blocked my phone number, deleted my WeChat. Why do you want to see me?" I threw the trash bag into the bin, turning to face him. "The baby is gone. I've sent you the divorce papers. Have you signed them?" His face went pale. "I haven't signed yet. Wanjun, we can't end like this." "Then how do you want it?" I crossed my arms, looking directly at him. "Do you want to wait until you and Shen Danran are together, then invite me to your wedding? I'm sure." "She and I are over?" he yelled, making passersby turn to look. That day, I went to confront her. She admitted everything. She said she did it on purpose. Because she was bothered seeing me happy, she wanted to prove that I still loved her. We had a huge fight. I've deleted all contact with her. "Really?" He hastily pulled out his phone, intending to show me. "No need." I raised my hand to stop him. What happens between you two has nothing to do with me." "How can it not be related?" His eyes were bloodshot. "Wanjun, I know I was wrong, unforgivably wrong. I shouldn't have written those terrible things in my diary. I shouldn't have thought of someone else while you were pregnant. But I swear, Shen Danran and I truly never had anything physical. I was just that I had an unresolved issue in my heart, and now it's resolved." "You think so?" I asked. He nodded repeatedly. Seeing her deceitful face, hearing those calculating words, I realized how foolish I was. The person I loved wasn't her at all, but just a shadow in my imagination. "Wanjun, the person I love is you. It's just that I never dared to admit it." "Xichen," I called his name, my voice calm. "Don't you find what you're saying ridiculous yourself?" He stood stunned. "You love me?" I let out a laugh. "You say you love me, yet in your diary you wrote, 'I wish Wanjun were Danran, how wonderful.' You say you love me, yet when I had morning sickness, you went to give medicine to her. You say you love me, yet when our child kicked in my belly, you thought of her tear mole. Isn't that enough?" I took a deep breath. "I don't want to hear your regrets, and I don't want to see you put on that madly in love act anymore. You're just regretting losing something you thought was yours. You're not used to it yet. Like a child who drops a toy, cries for a few days, then forgets it when they get a new one. I'm not a toy," he retorted, agitated. "You were my wife." "You were," I corrected him, "but not anymore. Xichen, everything between us is over. Please leave, don't bother my life anymore." I turned and walked away. He rushed forward, grabbing my wrist tightly. "Wanjun, please, just one more chance, just one time. I promise I'll spend my whole life making it up to you. I'll treat you 1,000, 10,000 times better than before." I violently pulled my hand free from his grasp. The force was too strong, making the wound in my lower abdomen tense, a sharp pain making me gasp. "Make it up," I clutched my stomach, looking up at him. "How do you intend to make it up? By giving me back the child I lost? Or by returning the 3 years of affection I wasted? Or by digging up every word in your diary?" He stood frozen, his lips moving but unable to utter a sound. "Xichen, some pains are irreparable." I slowly straightened up. Like a broken mirror, even if you put it back together, the cracks are still there. I don't want to live the rest of my life with those cracks, and I certainly don't want to lie next to you every night, wondering who you're thinking about today. "I won't think of anyone else." He burst into tears. "In my heart, there's only you. You don't believe me anymore." I shook my head. My trust in you has completely shattered. With that, I didn't look at him again, turning and walking straight into the apartment complex. "Wanjun," he called after me, "I won't give up. I'll wait for you. Wait until you forgive me." I didn't turn back. The next day, Xichen began waiting at the gate of my apartment complex. At 7, 00 a.m., music when I went down to buy breakfast, he was already there, holding a bag of hot soy milk and fried dough sticks. Used to music, love eating from this place. I didn't take it, just sidestepped him and walked past. At noon, I went to the neighborhood clinic to change my dressing. He trailed behind me. Let me wait for you, okay? No need. Then I'll music, come with you, just stand and watch from afar. Xichen, I stopped. You're being really annoying. His face turned pale, he stood still as a statue. In the music evening, I went downstairs to take out the trash, and he was still there, standing in the cold wind all day, his face purplish from the cold. Music, what do you want exactly? I asked. Let me take care of you. His eyes were bloodshot. You're so pale, you need someone by your side. I can cook, clean, take you to the doctor. I don't need it. I threw the trash bag into the bin. Besides, music seeing you only makes me feel worse. He staggered as if slapped hard, but the next day he still came, this time changing tactics, bringing a thermos bottle and leaving it at the guard's desk. Music, I cooked some blood-nourishing soup for you, drink it while it's hot. I didn't accept it. The thermos lay there for 3 days, eventually discarded by the cleaning staff. He also brought fruit, tonics, and thick coats. I had the guard politely refuse everything. Music. He started writing letters by hand, slipping long, remorseful letters under my door. He recounted how much he regretted, how much he hated himself, how much he loved me. I didn't even bother to open them, taking them downstairs and throwing them straight into the trash. A week later, he changed music, his strategy, no longer trying to approach me, but quietly sitting every day at the coffee shop across from my building, always in the same spot by the window, gazing towards the building where I lived. Like a silent observer, or perhaps a lingering ghost. Shen Danran appeared on a drizzly afternoon. I went downstairs to pick up a package and saw a red sports car parked in front of the residential complex gate. The car door opened, and Shen Danran stepped out. She wore a cream-colored cashmere coat, sharp high heels, carefully music made up, her chestnut brown curly hair perfectly styled. Completely different from the soft, kitten-like image in Xichen's diary. The woman in front of me had sharp eyes and a dissatisfied expression. Zhang Wanjun, she called my name. I held my package looking at her. Let's talk, she music said, not as an invitation, but almost as a command. There's nothing left to discuss between us. Music. She stepped closer. It's about Xichen. Then she continued, you've ruined him. I replied with a smile. I ruined him? Miss Shen, you're mistaken. You, along with your deep love, are the cause of my marriage's destruction. He did it voluntarily? Her voice suddenly became sharp. I never forced him. He couldn't forget me. He just wanted to relive his youth through me. Your marriage problems are your own. Why blame it all on me? I'm not blaming you, I calmly replied. I'm just stating the truth. Music, what happened between you two was originally your own private matter, but it affected me, destroying my life. That's why I chose to leave. Now he's single, you two can continue to write your fairy tale. Music, no need to seek out an old acquaintance like me. An old acquaintance? She sneered. You make it sound so easy. Do you know how he is now? He goes to work like a zombie, criticized by his superiors many times. Every day he stands like a madman under your building, not even bothering to go to the company anymore. Zhang Wanjun, do you really have to be so heartless? He only has a shadow of a past love in his heart. He didn't truly cheat. Looking at her beautiful face, I suddenly felt great pity for Xichen. So the shining moon he had cherished all this time was a woman like this. Miss Shen, I slowly said, if your husband filled a diary with loving words for another woman, music, and when you were pregnant, he thought of someone else. After your miscarriage, he even ran to you saying, only you are in my heart. Could you forgive him? She was silent, unable to say a word. Do you feel it's just someone in his heart and not music, actual infidelity? I asked further. Her eyes darted away, not answering. You wouldn't forgive him, I answered for her, because music, you are too selfish. You only care about how much love you receive, not about the pain of others. You enjoyed Xichen's inability to forget you. You savored that feeling of being deeply loved. Now that he has realized everything and no longer loves you, you become frantic and come to me to blame because you have lost something that you thought was yours. You're talking nonsense? Her face flushed. Whether you're right or wrong, you know best in your heart. I hugged the package tightly. You two solve your own problems. Don't come looking for me anymore. I turned and walked away. You think you've won? Her resentful voice echoed from behind. You aborted his child, ruined his life. Do you think he'll be grateful to you? He'll hate you forever. I stopped. I turned to look. The drizzle hung between us. Her face under the street lamp's glow became distorted and ugly. Music, Shen Danran, I said. I don't care if he hates me, just as I don't care how long your disgusting charade will continue. With that, music, I stepped into the apartment complex, without looking back. Behind me, the angry roar of a sports car engine sounded. Tires screeched on the road, speeding away. That night, Xichen came knocking on my door. Looking through the peephole, I saw him soaked to the bone, water dripping from his hair, his eyes red-rimmed, unclear if he had been crying or standing in the rain. Wanjun, open the door, please. He music continuously pounded on the door. Just let's talk a little, please. I didn't open the door. He stood by the door for a very long time, finally slumping to the floor, leaning against the door. I heard his muffled sobs, choked like the whimpering of a wounded animal. Then he whispered, Wanjun, I'm sorry, I'm music, truly sorry. I shouldn't have deceived you, shouldn't have married you with someone else's image in my heart. I shouldn't have. When you were pregnant, still thought of Shen Danran. And I certainly shouldn't have. Shouldn't have let you go to the hospital alone to bear everything alone. Today I met Shen Danran. She came to me, said she met you. She said you resented her. Resented me? She was right. We deserve this. Wanjun, I know I don't have the right to ask for your forgiveness. I just want to tell you that I truly realize my mistakes. I will wait. Wait until you are willing to see me. Even if I have to wait my whole life, I'm willing. His voice gradually faded. Music. Then there was a very long silence. Through the peephole, I saw him sitting there, his head buried between his knees, his shoulders shaking slightly. He sat like that all night. The next morning, when I opened the door, he was gone. In front of the door was a thermos, still warm. Beside it was a note. The soup is still hot. Drink some. I won't bother you anymore, but I will always wait for you. I picked up the thermos, went downstairs, music, and threw it in the trash. The first snow of winter arrived silently in the deep night. Waking up in the morning, outside the window was a dazzling white. I put on my coat and stood by the window, looking for a long time. Snow still floated down, softly and quietly covering the bare branches below, covering the deserted children's playground, and even the window seat of the coffee shop across from the building. Xichen was no longer there. He had been absent for 3 consecutive days. I didn't know if he had finally given up or if something had happened, and I didn't want to know. I turned and walked into the kitchen, heating milk, frying eggs. Music, my movements were practiced, my wrists steady. My body recovered faster than the doctor had predicted. The dull ache in my lower abdomen had disappeared, and my complexion gradually became brighter. It was just that at night, I still often woke up suddenly. Sometimes I dreamed of the dazzling white lights on the operating table. Sometimes I dreamed of muffled sobs. Sometimes I saw Xichen kneeling in the snow, his eyes red as if about to bleed. Music, in those nightmares, I always coldly turned my back and walked away, never looking back. After breakfast, I started my computer. My inbox had a few new emails, including an interview invitation for a music editorial assistant position at a local publishing house. They asked me to come for an interview at 2:00 p.m. tomorrow. I sent a confirmation email and started preparing. I revised my resume, neatly organized my portfolio of works, dug up all the book reviews and trivial assessments I had written during 3 years as a housewife. Not much music, worthy of note, but at least it proved I hadn't completely neglected myself. In the afternoon, I visited a shopping mall to buy clothes for the interview. In the changing room, I looked at myself in the mirror, wearing a business suit, a black blazer, a white shirt, a pencil skirt, my hair tied low, music light makeup. 27 years old, no wrinkles at the corners of my eyes yet, but my gaze was completely different from the woman 4 months ago who wore an apron and cooked in the kitchen, as if she had lived a lifetime. Music. As I paid, my phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Is this Ms. Zhang? I'm Xichen's mother. The voice on the other end was familiar yet distant, speaking hesitantly. Sorry to bother you. I stood under the dazzling lights in the shopping mall, watching the snow fall outside the window. Music? Auntie? I asked, my voice calm. Yes, she hesitated for a few seconds, as if choosing her words. Xichen, he's music, been hospitalized. I remained silent. Gastric hemorrhage, very serious. Her voice choked. The doctor said it was due to irregular eating, emotional breakdown, and drinking. He's been in the hospital for 3 days now, only today did he get out of critical condition. I replied. Perhaps she didn't expect me to react this way, so she was silent for a moment. He keeps calling your name. He calls it when he's delirious, and he calls it when he's conscious. Ms. Zhang, I know Xichen wronged you. It's entirely his fault, but could you please visit him once? Consider it pity for this mother. Auntie, I cut her off. Su Xichen and I have gone our separate ways. The other end of the line suddenly fell silent. His health is his own business, and so are his emotions. Music, I looked at my reflection on the glass window. If I go, all it will do is give him more delusions, nothing else. But there won't be any else, I said firmly. You can tell him to focus on his recovery and live well. As for him and me, everything is over. With that, I hung up, blocked the number. As I stepped out of the shopping mall, the snow was falling more heavily. I carried the paper bag with my new clothes, walking leisurely on the layer of snow. Snowflakes fell on my face, cold and numb, music then quickly melted. Su Xichen has gastric hemorrhage, serves him right. That was the first thought that popped into my head. Music, immediately afterwards, I felt truly pathetic. Even after all this, I still felt a sense of perverse satisfaction at someone else's pain. The interview the next day went smoothly. The editor-in-chief was a woman in her 40s, wearing thin-rimmed glasses, speaking very decisively and clearly. Music, she looked through my resume, asked a few professional questions, then gave me a manuscript to edit on the spot. You've been out of work for 3 years, she finally said. For what reason? I got music, married, became pregnant, miscarried, then divorced, I answered concisely. She pushed up her glasses, showing no surprise. Can you quickly get back into the swing of things? Yes, I can, I replied. Moreover, I will work much harder than before. She looked at me intently for a few seconds, then nodded. Start working next Monday. Music 3-month probation, any objections? No, I said. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Stepping out of the publishing house building, it was already dusk. Streetlights came on, casting a warm yellow glow on the white snow. I picked up my phone and messaged my mother. I found a job, I start on Monday. My mother replied immediately. Wonderful, Music, remember to take care of yourself, don't overwork. Then she added, today, Su Zichen's mother called me, said he's in the hospital. I didn't tell her where you are. You did the right thing, don't be soft-hearted. Music, reading that message, my nose suddenly stung. I replied with one word, okay, I know. This new job was indeed busier than I expected. Although the publishing house was small, there were many projects and a shortage of staff. As a newcomer, I started by proofreading manuscripts, learning how to plan topics from experienced editors, learning how to music, communicate with authors, and even designing layouts. Every day I left home early in the morning, and by the time I got back, I just wanted to collapse into bed from exhaustion. But I felt my life was becoming meaningful, a very real feeling. Every small effort yielded clear results. Everyone at the company knew I was divorced, but no one asked further. Occasionally, we gathered for meals, and people discussed love and marriage while I just listened, not participating. One enthusiastic colleague wanted to set me up, but I just smiled and declined. I haven't thought about that yet. Truly, I didn't want to think about it. My heart was like a frozen lake, cold and stiff. Even if a stone were thrown, it wouldn't create a ripple. After Music being discharged from the hospital, Su Xichen sought me out once more. That Saturday morning, I went downstairs for a run and saw him standing at the gate of the apartment complex. He had grown much thinner, his face pale, wearing a thick, bulky coat, standing motionless like a shadow. Music, when he saw me, his eyes suddenly lit up, then immediately faded. Wanjun, his voice was still hoarse. I put on my earphones, pretending not to hear, and continued to run. He chased after me, but only ran a few steps before gasping for breath. I just want to say a few words, then I'll leave. I stopped, took off my earphones, and looked at him. The morning after the snow was freezing cold, his white breath plumed in the air. You've been discharged, he said. The doctor said I need to rest and recuperate for half a year. Ahem. My mother said Music, she called you. He lowered his head, not daring to look at me. I'm sorry, I didn't expect her to bother you. Are you Music finished? I asked. He looked up, his eyes red. Wanjun, I truly realize my mistakes. These past few months, every day has been hell for me. Whenever I close my eyes, the image of you on the operating table, the image music of our baby, our child, appears. Don't mention it anymore, I interrupted him. No, I have to say it all. He was insistent. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but at least please give me a chance to make amends. Your career, your life. I can support you later. I have money, I have connections. Xichen, I called him by his full name. Do you think I lack money or connections? Music, he paused. What I need is respect. I looked directly into his eyes. It's sincerity, it's love that sees me as an independent individual, not a possession. Have you ever given me those things? He opened his mouth but couldn't speak. The feelings you had for Shen Danran were the most heartfelt emotions of your youth, the regret of not being able to have her, the longing meticulously recorded in every page of your diary, I said slowly. As for the feelings you gave me, it was, I should get married. My parents will be happy. I should live a proper life. As if you were performing a duty. It's not like that, he shook his head, denying it. It is exactly like that, I cut him off without hesitation. You never truly loved me. You loved the image of a perfect wife in your mind, a tool to make your life complete. Now that tool is broken and you're panicking, not because you love me so deeply, but because you've become accustomed to my existence, just like people get used to their morning coffee. His face grew pale, then ashen. So music, don't talk about making amends anymore. I put my earphones back on. Let's call it even. You gave me 3 years of marriage, I gave you a child and then personally ended its life. Music, everything is settled. With that, I turned and continued my run. This time, he didn't follow. I ran quite a distance, then looked back. He was still standing there, his head bowed, his shoulders slumped, looking like a withered tree battered by snow. Music. On the eve of the new year, the company held its annual dinner party. I had a few drinks, and my head felt a little hazy on the way home. Sitting in the taxi, I leaned back in the seat, gazing at the dazzling lights outside the window. In front of the shopping mall was a huge, magnificent Christmas tree. Under the traffic lights, couples held hands, waiting to cross the street. The convenience store windows were covered with "Happy New Year" messages. The world around me was noisy and bustling, but I felt utterly lonely. Yet, strangely, I didn't feel sad. Only a profound calm, a stillness so deep it was almost empty, occupied my mind. Music. When I got home, I soaked myself in a hot bath. While drying my hair with a hairdryer, my phone rang. It was a familiar landline number in the city. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Music, excuse me, may I speak to Ms. Zhang Wanjun? A female voice on the other end, polite and professional. This is she. We're calling from the emergency department of People's Hospital Number 1. Mr. Xichen has just been admitted here due to alcohol poisoning. Before losing consciousness, he left your phone number as his emergency contact. I gripped the phone tightly, standing in the steamy bathroom. The woman reflected in the mirror had wet hair, music clinging to her cheeks. Her eyes showed no fluctuation, still as a lake. He and I are divorced, I said. We no longer have any legal connection. Please contact his family. We have contacted his mother, but she is very far away and will need some time to get here. Mr. Su's condition is currently very critical. We were wondering if you could. I interrupted her. I'm sorry, I cannot help. I hung up, continuing to dry my hair. The whirring sound of the hairdryer drowned out the faint, almost inaudible hesitation in my heart. After drying my hair, I put on a face mask and opened my computer to review the manuscript I needed to edit for tomorrow. At 11 p.m., I went to bed on time. The night passed peacefully without dreams. For the Lunar New Year, I returned to my parents' home. My mother prepared a table laden with delicious dishes. My father opened a bottle of wine. The whole family gathered around the dining table, watching the New Year's program and chatting music happily. They carefully avoided mentioning Xichen, only asking about my work and health. I replied, "Everything is fine," and it was true. My work was going well, my health had fully recovered, my salary was sufficient, and I could even save a little. On the third day of Tet, my high school class organized a reunion. Initially, I had no intention of attending, but my close friends kept persuading me, so I reluctantly went along. The gathering took place at a karaoke bar. The lights were dim, the music loud and rhythmic. I sat huddled in a corner, drinking fruit juice, listening to everyone sing and talk about recent events. Someone accidentally mentioned Xichen. I heard he was hospitalized before Tet, due to music, alcohol poisoning, his condition seemed quite serious. It seems that's true. My cousin, who works at the same company as him, said she's been very tired lately. She might be transferred music to another position. Oh dear, why such hardship? They said, glancing at me, trying to appear normal. I just lowered my head, picking up a slice of watermelon from the fruit plate, pretending not to hear anything. At the end of the party, a close high school friend offered to drive me home. In the car, she hesitated slightly, then said, "Wanjun, there's something I don't know if I should tell you." "Go ahead," I said. "Shen Danran seems to be getting married soon." I turned to look at her. Last week, she posted pictures on her social media in a wedding dress. The groom is over 40, a businessman, divorced with one child. My friend carefully observed my expression. I heard that because she saw no more chance with Xichen, she quickly found someone else. I chuckled. "That's good then," I replied. "I wish her happiness." My friend froze for a few seconds, then also started laughing. "You're so different now." "Really?" I looked out the window, where the streetlights flashed past quickly. Perhaps that's true. After the Tet holiday, I returned to the city for work. Life settled back into a routine. Work, after work, grocery shopping, cooking, reading, sometimes meeting colleagues. On weekends, I went to the library or stayed home to clean and tend to my plants. Peaceful music and fulfilling, like a deep lake without a ripple, completely undisturbed. In early March, I was music, officially hired after my probation period. The editor-in-chief called me into her office, giving me a formal employment contract. "You've done very well," she praised. "After signing the contract, your salary will increase by 20%. You'll be working with me on the new project." Music. "Thank you, editor-in-chief." I took the contract. As I walked out of the office, the sunlight slanted through the window, shining brightly on the hallway floor. I stood in that music, patch of sunlight, holding the contract, and suddenly felt that winter had truly passed. One weekend in April, I went hiking in the newly opened ecological park in the suburbs. Music, the lake water was emerald green, reeds began to sprout green shoots, and wild ducks swam freely. I walked for a long time on the wooden path until sunset, which painted the entire sky a soft orange pink. I sat on a bench by the lake, watching flocks of water birds fly back to their nests, circling above the water. My phone vibrated. Music, it was a message from the bank. Xichen had just transferred money into my account. The amount was not small. The note read, "Sorry, and this is a small compensation." I stared at the message for a very long time. Then I opened my banking app, transferred the entire amount back to his original account. My message, "Unnecessary. Music, we have settled everything." After sending, I deleted his name from my list of frequent transactions. Music. Next, I opened my phone contacts, found his number, which I had blocked but kept the name. I pressed delete permanently, then went to the blocked list on WeChat and removed him. On all social media platforms, unfollow, unfriend, block. Everything was cleanly swept away, as if completing a ritual that had been drawn out for too long. From now on, this person, this past, had absolutely no connection with me anymore. The sun had completely set, only a faint last ray of light remained on the horizon. I stood up, turned, and walked back along the path. The wind blew across the lake, carrying the moist scent of spring foliage. I took a deep breath, then slowly, very slowly exhaled, as if releasing 3 years of resentment, pain, unwillingness, and despair into this spring breeze. Ahead, the streetlights began to illuminate. My silhouette stretched long, clear, solitary. I knew that from this moment on, no matter what happened, I could continue walking on my own, because I had already overcome the darkest path, and the sky had finally brightened. Yes,